media. This is your program, The Morning Show with Elton Jones. And in the house with me, a special guest, Attorney Roland Duncan. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're going to get to an early start. There's a delegation of from the countries, St. Martin, Curaçao, and Aruba, off to Holland to discuss, among other things, the dispute regulation, the lobbying for the dispute regulation, that's the way to put it, lobbying, and discuss the Venezuelan issue. In a report from the second chamber is saying they think it's a futile trip because they already know the position of the islands and they're waiting on advice from the Raad van State. So then the question becomes, what is it we hope to achieve? First of all, we had the IPCO. All the delegations from the parliaments agreed on this dispute regulation, how it should go. So that's why they said they know your position. So why is it the state secretary comes with something completely different that they want now to ratify?
I think Holland is being extremely dishonest and disingenuous where this is concerned. For the last 50 years, ever since the statute exists, there's been the quarreled argument about disputes. What it means, the kingdom government has oversight over the functioning of the countries. That oversight is exercised by them without any controls. Under normal circumstances, certain countries have constitutional courts that deal with the matters. In our case, our courts are restricted from much constitutional arguments. So the courts can't solve the problem. Anyway, on 10-10-10 or going up to 10-10-10, negotiations were carried out and it was agreed that there will be a dispute regulation that was put in the statute, the new statute as of 10-10-10. At that point, I think that's maybe where we as Antilles failed. We agreed to, let's just put the principle in the charter and we'll work out the details later on. I think that's could have been, it's showing up to be a real mistake. Why? Because we all agree there should be a dispute regulation. What we're looking for as Caribbean is if the Dutch government gives, what they like to say, an hand-raising, an instruction, or take charge or decide to higher supervision and stuff, that the other party can say, well, wait a minute, can challenge it, can discuss it, and some third party, independent hopefully, can then decide, hey, blood, you're wrong, you're right, and so forth. Because don't ever let anybody fool you. The kingdom government ain't always right in everything they do. And you could see, particularly lately, Plasterk especially, there's a lot of, I don't want to use the word hatred, but there's a lot of animosity and these crumped up ideas they have from how you should live your life. And they're guided by that. And we had a discussion some day ago here on Facebook where somebody said, the Dutch people, tax money, the Dutch people don't give a damn about the tax money the government spends. They would love getting, in our case, the little pittances they give us. But don't tell me you spend billions on defense. Against whom? You keep a standing army. You're all over the world messing around. Save that money now. If you're telling me what you worried about your a couple $100 million euros spent in St. Martin, you're all uptight about it, how it's happening, and you're spending money, giving it away to countries that you don't even know what they do, or their reputation and what it is. You're battling America to get into Iran and all that kind of stuff. You're out there with Israel and stuff. Count that money, then you see, compare it to what Italy is doing. But anyway, they come in. So there was an agreement also in the IPCO or the meetings of the parliaments, parliamentary delegations, that led in a certain different. There was a General Van Laar, I think he's from the Labour Party, that had made a proposal. And it was accepted how this thing should be. There should be an independent third party. The Dutch government don't want to subject itself to anything. So they have now cooked up a regulation that leaves the last word in them. So you can get as much advice as you want from the Council of State, whoever amicus put in the documents and stuff, whoever professor write his paper. The kingdom government has the last word. Then what's the sense of a dispute regulation? Because then you don't have a dispute, because you can still decide for yourself. Now, it's a farce. And I think from a worldwide academic perspective, this should be a shame, because you're imposing, in this day and age in the world, a kind of nonsense regulation on people. I mean, everybody in the world, look, no, I mean, I'm saying like sometime or some point the European Parliament is going to say something about it, because it's nonsense, because it's not a regulation. That's why the Dutch Parliament has reneged on that motion that was passed. The government ignored it and set in its own draft. I agree with them. It's fruitless to go up there, because the majority of the Dutch Parliament is not going to vote against your stuff. This is something that they are going to vote for, because their coalition has worked it out already. It's as simple as that. So, because if you don't go there, you haven't argued, and I'm saying there will be people who would say, by going, at least you argue, you're on record of having argued and defended your position. Well, to me, it's a done deal. And my point is, if I were the one in this thing, I would be refusing to deal with this. I would refuse to execute. I would refuse to acknowledge this kingdom law when it comes into effect. But on the other hand, let me also say that, like I said before, we were two nice people. We agreed to put the regulation in the statute. We had a chance at that point in time. We had maybe more leverage to have tried to force a different issue. But looking at the attitude of the Dutch government since 10, they were not going to ever agree on a fair, impartial regulation, period. Because then they would lose their power, their say-so in the kingdom. That's it. So I'm saying they're going, it's going to be a trip, and even the cute part of it is so silly that the Martin delegation, for instance, has a right to submit a motion. So they can submit a motion, but they don't vote for it.
It ain't happening.
They can vote for it, they can't vote on their own motion. They're going to vote on the stuff, because the Dutch is going to vote on it. So you're going to be sitting down there, listening to people vote on your life and your situation. Again, you have nothing to do with it.
Another issue being discussed in with this delegation is the issue of Venezuela. One parliamentarian, Aruba, was lamenting the fact that the Dutch just gave Colombia 4 million euros to deal with the refugees from Venezuela, but when it comes to the ABC Islands, it's just technical assistance. State Secretary Knops explained it this way: that money didn't come from the Kingdom Affairs budget; it came from the Foreign Trade Development Cooperation Ministry. I don't know that ministry. It doesn't ring a bell. Anyway, it
used to be
development aid.
It used to be the development.
But what difference does it make which ministries come from? The fact is,
money
you give today, but you don't give to me, but you want me to deal with it.
I am somewhat disappointed in Aruba and Curacao to start with. I was born in Aruba, and I spent my first 18 years on Aruba. The first television I saw was Radio Caracas Televisión. The second one was Venevisión. And then finally, Curacao and Aruba started their TV as I grew up. Venezuela has been the New York, the example to the Antilles. Nations are like human beings. We need to have relationships, regardless of what kind of government. I mean, it's not the first time that Venezuela had coups. Venezuela had things that the Antilles, Curacao and Aruba were involved with, you know? Hey, the guys like Piat and them supported Venezuela. Bolivar hid out on Curacao. Okay, the guy that tried a coup once, I can't remember his name, tried to do it via Curacao. The point I'm making is you have a relationship with the people, a cultural relationship. Maduro, like Maduro said, hey, you got a lot of Maduros on Curacao and on Aruba.
Okay. Family ties.
I'm disappointed that we didn't develop, I'm saying Curacao and Aruba didn't develop a policy on their own that is based on their relationship with Venezuela. Suddenly, they got a lot of Venezuela come here. Man, you allow all kinds of people to come into the island from wherever. Now your family, your cousins and them got problem, you didn't want them in. You're looking to Holland to do what? What are Holland's going to do? Pay for the camps that you want to put the people in? Then you have another human rights problem. Venezuelans have been going and coming all the time. Now, you need money. I haven't seen a budget made by either Curacao or Aruba to say, well, to take care of the Venezuelans or to house them or to whatever is going to cost me XYZ dollars or guilders or euros. They have not. I haven't seen, maybe they did, but I haven't seen it, hasn't been published. So what money you want Holland to do? Why should Holland come in and do our business for us again? Now, Curacao is playing a game. Or I can be a point to store the aid between. Are you kidding?
No,
You're playing a game between Holland and America
and the USA.
And then because you want to play important, you're looking to get your little benefit out of the Venezuelan problem. I'm saying you're playing a very dubious game. Now, what business are we going to be doing? And if Holland says, listen, that money came from international trade and stuff. Okay. Now, we're stuck with Holland and his stuff. Somebody said something ago here, oh, look, Holland give Dominica more money than money without conditions and so forth. That's also development. That's also money that they spend around the world to look good, to foster goodwill in their stuff. We don't belong in that group. We part of the backyard, we part of the children or the colonies, whatever you want to call it, that they have a certain amount of money set aside. And they play the game with us. They played us beautiful. They take 550 million euros. Blow money, boy, for us. Gave it to the World Bank. They're misusing, or they used the country ship that we have to put a World Bank in between. Why? Because then decisions are going to fall on us that we're going to be forced to accept, that we can't accuse them of having enforced.
I've said that all the time. Bringing a third party to carry them.
Yeah. So we we are suckers. We love being suckers. To put ourselves in position to come back to Aruba and Curacao. Oh, it's a great opportunity, to make some money on the Venezuelans. I say it don't cost money to house the refugees, But it hurts me, having grown up there, that you're treating a Venezuelan as if, boy, Maduro is only there because Venezuelans want him there. Now you get that, that's my business. If I don't want nobody to mess with my business, I ain't mess with it. But we are family. We've lived close together for centuries. Suddenly that's not important. We born to Holland about, you gotta help me. Help me do what? Have you had a plan how you're gonna deal with the Venezuelans? No. Then again, we complain a lot. Holland misuses our weaknesses, but we don't plan sufficiently, we don't think sufficiently, we don't have no content to what we do for ourselves.
Another issue we have in here is continuous, since the passing of Irma Maria in 2017, everything the Dutch, every request to the Dutch for assistance or whatever comes with added conditions. First of all, the much talked about 550 million euros that went down to 470 after came with conditions. But still, getting into it brings added conditions. Point in question. We have requested liquidity support for 2017, and now it is said we need liquidity for 2019. And the Dutch is saying, yeah, the liquidity, it was a loan before, but it's going to be done differently now. We're going to float bonds. So it's going to be a bond system, and it's a loan to St. Maarten, but it's conditional. Conditional on St. Maarten approving that the Dutch National Police operates in St. Maarten, one. Condition two, there must be a reduction of salaries of the Parliament and the Council of Ministers. In condition 3, you must reform your pension system and move it from 62 to 65 years. Explain to me in layman terms what the one have to do with the other.
Oh, by the way, you forgot the condition.
Which one?
4.7 million guilders has to be earmarked for the prison.
Oh, for the prison, yeah. In the beginning, they weren't going to pay for that, yeah.
Well, liquidity budget, what's liquidity? The cash flow that I need to execute, hopefully the budget that I have. Okay? Because the budget is a bunch of, what do you call it, prognostications, and I don't know if they're going to come true. A wish list on both sides. I wish to spend, I wish to get. So liquidity is the actual cash in the bank. Start with the prison. Holland got embarrassed by the Corralo case in the world because of human rights, the lousy part of the stuff. Our system has police cells, we have a house of detention, and we have a prison. Point Blanche has been used as a house of detention / prison. Okay? There's a time when Simpson Bay was used as a house of detention, but we don't like that because we see
people view from
we see the prisoners and stuff. Okay, we have some silly arguments on this island sometimes that you wonder why not take advantage of us. So forcing us to deal with a prison gets Holland out of its own hot water, etc. And if you're going to spend 4.7 million dollars out of the liquidity to keep me happy, hey, that's a good Dutch condition for Dutch.
No, it's not coming out of the trust fund. It's
No, as a liquidity, the loan,
Okay.
the liquidity, the cash.
Okay.
Okay? Not a trust fund. Okay? I will come to the first trust fund if you remind me later on. Then you have this pension to 62 to 65. In Holland, there are some severe questions right now as to the sense of 65. A lawyer, for instance, our maximums go to 75 because, hey, you're using your brain and you're really using your body. It is highly questionable if a guy working concrete in the road in the hot sun, especially our hot sun, how long is he going to last after 65? So you work until you're 65 and then you live 2 years, 3 years, 5 years
That's
after.
no pension.
That's the expectation because the pension run up. Besides that, it is going to be an average instead of the old 70% thing. It's now going to boil into an average. What bothers me is that St. Maarten has a chance still to discuss this publicly. Let the public know, let the public input into whether I want to go past 62 or 65, what it is for us. Why is Holland imposed it? Because they're saying during the line they're going to run out of money because of mismanagement, so they're going to come to me and let me force them to get this thing going one time. That is called meddling. The same thing with the other condition, drop your salaries. Now, we're highly offended because how dare they come and involve themselves with us. My reaction is, not that I'm supporting Holland, far from that. But our parliament should have taken that decision long time ago. The ministers take a PNP decision, but they're taking voluntary 10%. I don't know how they do that legally.
It's not legal.
Okay? I don't know what they're saying, take 10% off and they don't pay tax on it, well then that's illegal. Why can't we deal with the matter? You got criticism from all around the kingdom. What would it hurt the parliamentarians and the ministers to cut their salary? I would want to cut it more than 10%. Besides that, they're joking. 21,000 guilders a month puts you in a 47% tax bracket, income tax bracket. If you reduce your salary, you reduce your tax exposure too.
33%.
A minister in Curacao at 15,000 guilders is paying 30-something%. Now, what are you gaining by maintaining yourself in a high tax bracket? Just to stay in a tax bracket? So I'm saying our parliament, our politicians, our government have not even taken the time to sit down and say, let me check to see if this all makes sense. They're stuck in a sense that this salary is going to be more than the SGs. One thing I question, with all due respect to the SGs, I love all of them. I had a ministry in my days, I didn't have any SG. Every minister, every director of a department did what they had to do, and my cabinet, a political cabinet, regulated it. The cost of an SG is one of the highest costs that we have in the civil service. Question is an SG really, honest to God, necessary? You have a minister, you have a cabinet, now you even have chiefs of cabinets now, the SG, and then you have heads of departments. We could have streamlined that system and deal with the cost of that. And must a parliamentarian make more than an SG? You hire an SG based on their qualifications. A parliamentarian is elected because you like him or not. I don't think the two things are comparable. But, so coming down to the point, what bothers me is, I would have loved to have seen my government, my parliament, make the changes, the reductions. And don't put in there that you want to buy 7 new cars. I don't care how less money that is.
No.
That shows a lack of discipline, a lack of respect for the budget process. You don't have money. You got a hole in your budget. You got to buy new cars. You got to hire a bunch of bodyguards.
And it's priority.
In the Netherlands, Antilles, your drivers used to be a primary bodyguard, trained for that. There is a training, contrary to what the Prime Minister would suggest. There's a special training for drivers. It's called defensive driving. Plus, they learn to shoot. I was there. Now we need 5, 6 people. To do what? Protect. When last did a minister get attacked on St. Martin that you need such things? I got threatened, but fine, I'm still here. So I'm saying, what bothers me is, one is the typical Dutch meddling and doing what it makes them feel good. It protects them, like I said, in dealing with us. Besides, they owe my money, right? Last time Holland offered money to Indonesia some years ago, they told them keep it. We're not in a position to tell them keep their money. But if we were serious, we'd have taken some serious measures to reduce our cost. I think it's time, and if I compare salaries of the government to the private sector, I think it's time government look at itself in the mirror. I know the unions are not going to like this, but it's time we look at ourselves and say, are our salaries commensurate to what we should be doing under the economic circumstances? We need to ask ourselves that question.
Yeah, but I agree with you on that. But this, where I don't agree with you is that the CNOPs and them of the world come and they sit down with the Council of Ministers, and they basically ask the government, so the Council of Ministers, to give Parliament an order. It doesn't work like that. They know it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but they are taking advantage of our weaknesses, our lack of discipline, I want to call it, to say, make it a nice word. We should have taken the necessary austerity measures and measures to do and to control our budget. In other words, to drive down a possible liquidity request. We didn't. We thought we were going to be smart, juggle a couple of little numbers, and go across, take out a hand and we get. So now you get stuck. Now what the guy is doing, CNOPS follows St. Martin's government and its functioning maybe better than most of the ministers that we have, and definitely most of the parliamentarians. They know where they need to squeeze. Plus, like I said with Point Blanche, it's a matter of protecting themselves. They don't want to say we're going to come and fix Point Blanche because they're too nice. So they are going to force you to fix Point Blanche so I can get protected. So they're protecting themselves, their own interest. The 65 is they're setting the thing in the future. If they could suffer 65, we can too. What the economic implications are, nobody says. They don't really care. I doubt if CNOPS would know the economic implications of 65 years pension. But we have discussed it, we play with it, and we then don't follow up. So yes, I agree with you that Holland is meddling. I agree they're taking advantage. But Christine, the first time, and ELTON, I won't come and take your shirt off your body. That's wrong. But you allow me to take off your shirt? That's also another question that you have. Yes, I'm wrong for taking your shirt. But, I mean, you can just sit down and docile.
Yeah, accept it.
Accept it? Okay, what is our arguments that we have been having? We have an arrogant Minister of Finance who comes down and steps down. Okay. You beat in Parliament? Where are you going to come now? But the question that you have is, what are the 8? The coalition of 8 going to say when they see an amendment coming to the budget cutting their salary? What are they going to do? Fire the minister?
That's interesting, but I would like to see the minister. I don't think the minister will even attempt that, but I'd like to see it because
but that's what will happen, because I don't think none of them that brave to make it their own amendment to the budget that is going to be coming to reduce salaries. So the minister is going to have to do it if he agrees to Knopf's terms. And then the question is, are the coalition members going to agree to it to do that? That's interesting to say what can happen, because but Knopf knows that. Knopf knows that he is dealing with weak people and people who are going to go along with his demands. And bear in mind, if you change the budget to reduce the 10%, that's a law. So you don't have to go through the pension law no more, or the other law, because that's a law it's in itself. So you cut the 65, you make it there. Now, St. Maarten has moved to 62 this year.
62, yeah.
The dialogue about whether we should 65 hasn't been started. The transition hasn't been set. Now, I noticed Knopf didn't set a transition either. When are we going to do this? Are we going to do it? Is 65 the proper thing to do economically? Not just for the budget, you know.
And the National Police, where else in the kingdom besides the Netherlands, the National Police operate?
They have to change the law, because there's a kingdom law police, there's a kingdom law on public ministry, there's a kingdom law on justice, the court. So if we're going to put them in charge, I understand a protocol was signed by our Minister of Justice in which the RST is also being run by the Chief of the National Dutch Police. I haven't seen it. I don't know what. I question the legality, because you can't just change the law by a protocol. The law requires that, because I hear people talking about trias politica. They love that word.
Yeah, I hear it a lot in Parliament.
The public ministry is part of the government. They don't play in trias politica. They are the government. They are working for government. On St. Maarten, the RST, the TBO, everybody don't respect the minister and his authority, and they assume that the minister, as well as the minister, that he don't have nothing to do with them. It is not just only a criminal case, you know. It's a whole policy. It's a whole management. The minister has to decide how many detectives I apply to which problems and whatever. There's a year plan that has to be made. That's in the law. So it ain't like he can't tell them nothing. The management of the prison is the ministers, not public ministry. The public ministry has, as a worker, an employee of the ministry, certain duties with regards to checking the quality and reporting and stuff. But they don't run things. So if the minister decides if point blanche is suitable, can be used or not used, or what he has to do for point blank, that is directing, nothing to do with trias politica. It has to do with government's duties. You know, we hide it between these expensive terms that we don't understand, or we choose to let them dictate to us.
They're
and then,
the water.
You know what I mean? So coming back to this stuff, the National Police has no jurisdiction over St. Maarten. Besides that, what's wrong with our local chief of police? What's wrong with him? He's incompetent? That's what you're saying. What's wrong with our...
Everybody's incompetent.
Well, you know what I'm saying? And again, but you say these things, you see, and that's where it angers me, because... Let me put it this way. Other people in government there Clubs wouldn't dare talk that stuff because he know the weakness of these people. So he says them up front. He looks tough in Holland. People enjoy him. His popularity is high in Holland because the guy's a tough talking little fellow. We grumble, we gripe, we don't do nothing. If we don't agree with him, then we should say to him, no. This is my way, how my organization is going to be with regards to the police, etc. But we're in a position where we don't want to hire people because we keep beating up on our own people. We don't train them properly. When they train, we keep them down. We don't allow them to progress anymore. So we don't have police officers. And we're paying them lousy salaries. Yeah? A minister makes 21,000. A policeman starts at 2,400 guilders a month. Gross. Now, there's something wrong between the two comparisons. We don't check that. We don't want to reduce 10% because 10% is going to do, I don't know what they're going to do. The law has to be changed. I would love to see how they're going to change that law to allow the national police, because you see, the problem with the Dutch national police is they report to the Dutch minister. They don't report to our minister. So you're telling me that police is now going to be reporting to other minister who has no jurisdiction here or who has nothing to report to here, and I got to swallow that. So tomorrow something goes wrong, somebody get locked up for nothing, and there's no supervision, there's no oversight on our end. Then if you're going to give up the police, then why don't we give up customs and every damn thing and done?
My next question to you is, the organization that did TBO also have to be sworn in by the minister here to operate it.
I say so, yes.
Was the TBO ever so?
I don't think so.
So how is it, looking at you from your legal cap?
I know.
How are these people bringing cases to court?
I question the legality of it. Now, I hope that lawyers are bringing this argument, and the court. I haven't seen any ratification or sanctioning by the court. I don't think the subject has been brought to court. I am afraid that the subject hasn't been broached because everybody assumes it's okay. That happens also, you know, because we lack check and balances. Now, this would have happened in, say, Holland itself, because some parliamentarian, opposition or wherever, would have asked a question, hey, how this thing is, Mossad. A minister signs a protocol, nobody asked a question yet. As far as I'm heard, I haven't heard the opposition nor the government ask a question. The minister hasn't come to parliament and said, well, boys, I just did that either.
But
so everybody assumes it's okay.
Parliament, I talked to the two oldest members in Parliament, the chair, and yesterday I had William MAARTEN. And both of them basically says, you know, yeah, we have a kind of challenge getting ministers to come to Parliament. My thing is, then Parliament is a toothless tiger, because if the people don't want to come, there's no means. You don't have, like my good friend Chance used to put it, no tools to get them to come. You're doing nothing.
Understand what I'm saying? I've been a minister, and ministers are subject to the parliament. I heard the Minister of Tourism stating that he took an oath to represent the people. I didn't think that oath too good, you know. He's a government minister. He don't represent the people. He has a government ministry to run. The parliamentarians happen to represent the people. But that's the attitude we have.
But the thing is about understanding the government. You know how many people don't understand how the government functions?
Right. But understand something. I grew up, and maybe I'm wrong, that the ministers, when Parliament called, the ministers rush come. That's how I grew up. In Holland it's so, in America it's so. Yeah, I think Barr right now is being questioned in America in the Senate. I think today he's going to the Senate, the Attorney General. You think he won't be there? We better go. Are you kidding? Parliament has the right to summon ministers. Period. A minister can't decide, I'm not coming. A minister can't decide, I'll be alone.
Important things
the chairman, because the chairman, and I'm disappointed in the chairperson because she know better. She know better. She's been there, she's been a minister, she's been there already, and she know what the rules are. She don't want to bother her coalition ministers, because stupid opposition, they're asking questions, the modern people are going to go waste time answering them. That's the problem. Not that the minister, hey, besides that, you're working for me. If I call you and you don't come, then maybe I should get somebody else as a minister because you don't want to feel the come. Or is the coalition saying they can't find no other competent people? Because we keep worrying here in St. Martin about the government falling. Government don't need to fall for nothing. You get rid of a minister.
Could selectively get rid of it.
Simple as that.
Reshuffle your cabinet.
Yeah, you don't need to fall no government or no nothing. If the things are not properly functioning, then you get a new person, period, and done.
Another issue here yesterday on social media and the newspaper here, the Prime Minister filed a complaint with the Lance Recherche to investigate leaks in her cabinet. They need to know because the Dutch threatened to withdraw from the financing of the airport if the leaks are not plugged, besides other conditions as said before. Now I find this a real joke. Government doesn't give information to the people. They don't go to Parliament, so the people have no way of knowing. Government is running this thing on a secretive way to deal with the airport. I know, for instance, that government has instructed the board, supervisory board, not to deal with the other financial companies because the Dutch has to be the only game in town. So now the Dutch has a monopoly to say, you do this, you do that, you do that. My thing is, what is so wrong with whistleblowers? All over the world, whistleblowers keep things on the up and up. Why is it acceptable that the Dutch implements an integrity chamber to give them information on business people and on politicians, but when you inform on what the Dutch is doing, it becomes an illegal affair?
Well, let me put it this way. My question is, what was so secret, or so legally secret, that it shouldn't have been divulged? I have a major problem with government-owned companies and government institutions signing contracts with non-disclosure agreements in them. And the question legally is who you don't have to disclose to. As a shareholder of the company, I don't think the company could sign anything saying I can't know. That's contrary to the whole corporate structure and the corporate setup of our system. I'm the owner of the company, I can't know what's going on. Now, secondly, I don't know which law was broken by so-called this whistleblowing. From what I read, there were some civil servants there and there's some other people there. Now, a civil servant took an oath and they could get railroaded because, hey, because that oath you can get condemned for divulging information. What information, I don't know. Secondly, the people who are not civil servants, I don't know who can force them to go to not disclose, and I don't know if there was a disclosure or non-disclosure agreement. If a government, my government, is going to sign agreeing to not disclose information to the public, then I think they should go. Then they should go home. Because transparency is what we're supposed to run on. We have a right, the Parliament has a right to have oversight to know. So if the government can't or has bound itself or allows itself not to be able to give information, then we're in trouble. Then I think that government should go home. Because what you're saying then, this is so secret that it's going to affect a major public asset, the airport, and the public can't know about it. So I'm wondering, like, okay, but what was said? Now, a minister came out, he gave a whole explanation. There's been explanations on all kind of things about the airport and the loan and all that everybody knows. My problem is I don't even know which is accurate and which is not, because it's information that is spread out there. Lately, and I was talking about information that was there before this meeting in New York, now there's a meeting and there's some information popped out. When I gleaned through the newspaper article, maybe 10% of the newspaper article is really about the meeting. The rest of it is about other situations and things that
well, if you got time in the night, social media to have more information than the newspaper.
Yeah, you know, and so that's what I'm saying. Now, you have a problem that to say, since I'm throwing a rock at the government has a tendency now on Wednesdays, I always had an objection to that, to go out and then really give the information that they want to give to the public on Wednesdays. They don't go to Parliament, or they hardly go to Parliament, and That's it. I don't think that is right, with all due respect. Wednesdays is this publicity show, if you ask it, but there's nothing concrete. And then the newspapers are not allowed to follow up questions, they're not allowed to ask nothing.
No follow-up.
So it's a farce. I stopped listening because you're not allowed. Maybe get some dumb questions also. And then, yeah, thank you for your question. Sure, thank you for not asking me a relevant question. Come back to the secrecy thing. I don't know what the Prime Minister is going to gain from it. To say, oh, I've done this. Who says it was a St. Martin and a divulged information? Suppose it was a Dutch civil servant there. That's possible.
The other question I had that.
Oh, somebody from the bondholders. How do you know?
We negotiated this bonds with the lenders in the United States. So how does the Dutch and the World Bank become negotiation partners now with the bondholders?
I think our government is way in over its head. Our government is the shareholder of the airport. The shareholder suddenly now is negotiating loans and conditions on its companies. That's the way how the rules are.
That don't remind you of 1993 with all the rest?
Okay. It don't recall, that's not how the rules are. The rules are the company negotiates its own conditions and stuff, and it may reach a case, like in this case, I could see the shareholder saying, hey, I want to say yes or no to it. But not the other way around, that the shareholder goes and sit on the company's chair. I don't hear the supervisory board oversight or saying anything where the matters are concerned either. They're tagging along.
They're getting strict directions.
Yeah, but that's down the way it's supposed to be. Then, if I read the law, and I know this law, pretty good, Book 2 of the Civil Code, this ain't the way how the rules are. The bondholders are people who have the loan money, so they have a right under the conditions of their contract to protect themselves. And if they're smart, they'll try to protect the company in a general sense because they need the company to generate cash.
So they can
make money. Because being bondholders, what are they going to do? Sell the airport? Not impossible. They can't say on sell piece of the runway. So what asset do they have as recourse at the airport? Controlling the cash flow of the airport. So it's logical. Holland comes in now, and I wouldn't be surprised if Holland says, well, I want to replace the bondholders. You know what, American? I'm going to pay out the bondholders, you give me 40, 50% of your shares. That may be one of the proposals coming up. If they really want to control.
I doubt it very much.
But then they can replace the bondholders. But otherwise than that, they're going to have
Somebody could buy them out.
They're going to have to take care of the bondholders because the bondholders has this first right, and they got, as far as I understand, some good contractual grounds to do what they want. If they are bondholders, as I understand what bondholders are meant in the law. Now, if I'm coming with additional loan, the bondholders got to say, well, okay, who's going to get paid back first, you or me? That's one of the major questions. Holland, World Bank could say, well, you know what, bondholders, I'm going to buy you out, and I'm going to take your position, and then I am the only sole creditor. The conditions of that will be, again, they will also seek guarantees as to what happens if things don't go good. Now, putting a CFO in there isn't going to be sufficient. A CFO is a good spy, open spy then. But other than that, he can control things there. He's outvoted in the management by the two other directors. If Holland goes in and put one or two members on the supervisory board, they're outvoted also. Okay, somebody's there looking at you, but they don't vote. So I'm saying, how do I protect my 100 million? Physically, really, realistically. Now, that I'm not hearing, and I'm saying to government, this is something the government needs to sit down and discuss with Parliament. Not a minister playing smart, or I know it all, I alone will discuss this, and me alone could talk to bondholders. Partner, you will find some lawyers that know about bondholding and stuff to advise you as to what you're doing.
I think your Prime Minister takes this thing pretty serious. She has allegedly sent a letter to the Prefet because apparently my good boy Fernando and them on the Tuesday program hammered this meeting they had information. There were 3 parliamentarians in that
Yeah.
show, and she's wondering why government members and people from the Dutch side is allowed to go on the French region.
Liberté!
But my thing is, they campaign on the French side. The same party she supported, she was on.
They campaign more, they spend a lot of money over there.
So what is the problem today that is not working in your favor? I mean, we really
Yeah, but
gotta get
understand
serious.
something. What the French is going to do now? Say, I can't go over there and go on a radio station. Okay. Based on what? Which French law have I broken? France, the country of liberté, liberté d'expression. I'd like to see what this superface is going to do.
Nothing. Nothing.
You know, but again, it makes me look silly to go with a point like that, because what am I afraid of? So you know, I want to stop my parliamentarians from talking. Phew, I'm satisfied because they're running them out over there and bothering me. I don't know that. I mean, you know the word democracy?
It doesn't work.
Freedom of expression?
It doesn't work here.
I mean, to even decide you're going to try that is telling me that you don't understand what you're doing. And if you do understand, pardon, because I don't want to be disrespectful, that makes me even more afraid, because now you're trying to curtail a major right of the people to talk. And so what are they going to do? You don't know you can take a phone and call Billy D and talk on the phone? She can still transmit it? So they're going to go around and pull Billy D. And how much radio stations are on the French side?
1,000.
Are we going to stop the French people from coming over here and going on our radio too? Hey, we just celebrated the Treaty of Concordia. I talked about free movement.
She was one of the main speakers.
I don't know. Why do we put ourselves in this position? Why? What sense does it make? What good does it bring? You know, some people like
feel
to
personally accosted when people say things that we don't like, and
But
then
I'm
we
saying-
revert to these stupid things.
But it is coming back to everybody's right, and I hope that even if it's bad news, it's their right to question. And there's always a saying, if I want you to know the real story, then I should tell it to you. The minute I'm withholding, I'm covering and so forth, you have the right, you get the right to interpret things the way how you want to do, because I have failed or I refuse to give you the real thing. So I can't complain if people go out there and jump to conclusion because you failed to give the right information.
In
Simple
Canada,
as
so the
that.
press have a right to conjecture until you tell them the truth.
Yeah.
So you make it up and you answer to it then.
Yeah.
I get it anyhow.
Then-
Another thing I want to go.
Well, she should have gone to the press and say, boy, you insult me and you write wrong things. I didn't see that going to the press.
Exactly,
neither.
that's what I'm saying. So, the minister of VSR said last week that they have, according to him, relaxed the requirements for work permits since the hurricane to help the reconstruction speed it up. But now they're looking at that because they got to make sure that local people get jobs and people that they have trained. I mean, I think it's about 3 decades late, but anyway, nice. But we have given up freely border control to the Dutch as one of the conditions for the money that we didn't get yet.
But under which policy or for what reason?
Well, that's where I'm going. So now we have an influx of everybody, including Venezuelans. And now we are reviewing that because now we got to look at local people. Really? Tell me where we're going with these kind of procedures. What's happening with this border control that we give to the Dutch?
Yeah, but border control without a policy is, I don't know, I want to call it repression. Because then all you have is a guy with a gun on at the border. I mean, one of the essential things of border control, and you could follow Trump in his own way of looking at it, is our right to decide who coming in. I have seen that many Venezuelans that have been coming here are highly educated and highly trained people. They're coming because of their circumstances. I would expect the Labor Department to look at this and say, hey, we got quality skilled people coming in here. Again, I just told you about my way of looking at Venezuela from a cultural and a neighborhood situation. Our major influx have always been people from the Caribbean, people that you say like us. That hasn't changed. This temporary thing now is more people from outside, a different set of grouping, come for a specific set of job because the developer, the owner, refused to waste time or got an excuse that we can't find anybody locally, so I got to get this done because he got a deal. I can buy this from you, you can put it up for me, and you can bring your people. That's the worldwide range. I don't mind that to the extent that the construction is a large piece of thing, and because first thing I got to know is what is with our workforce. I have a difficulty believing now at this stage that they got that many locals can't get jobs or ain't working. If they're not doing something serious or something, they're either getting blackballed or something, okay, with all the construction going on. So, I don't know. What I do know is the exceptions have been made, like for Maho, a group of Chinese workers. I thought the conditions were when the job done, they're gone. You don't need to change no policy for that. Now, what policy are you doing? How many locals are there that need jobs and can't get jobs? I mean, you know, contrary to what government thinks, the economy ain't doing too bad, you know. There's a lot of construction, particularly going on in St. Martin.
I think they know that because
You know,
every
and-
year they have a
Right.
different number under the expected deficit, always less than,
Yeah.
so now the economy is
Right.
picking up.
What happened is, what I'm afraid of is that deals have been cut where a lot of people don't pay much taxes or they pay much reduced taxes for these foreign workers, etc. because, hey, I'm leaving my country to come over here. I got wife, children, family. You're giving me something to cover my costs at home, in addition to my living conditions here. Usually, the government would put, a government, not our government, would put as condition that you gotta have housing, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do that, and we got a tax thing. Now that hasn't been published for our good knowledge, so I don't know if the government is earning anything on that. Instead of the Venezuelans run on the French side where they do have refugee status, sneak over to the Dutch side and work all kinds of weird hours and get paid sometimes very little. If you set up a system where you say, okay, Venezuelan, come in, register, I'm sure that a majority of the Venezuelans would love to be able to get a little permit to work, pay taxes, pay Social Security, as opposed to sneaking and dodging like they're doing right now. And I'm looking at government to say, hey, government, this way you're getting resources, this way you have a control, this way you know what's going on, as opposed to illegalizing it and everybody going on in the woodworks.
Yeah, but what I want to understand is this border control that we see.
We have no border control.
What input we have in it because we
We
gave it
have
to
that. The
Dutch.
French have taken over Oyster Point. Captain Oliver's
I know
has
that
been
already.
there. The French walking everything. Where's my
The
border
Prime
control?
Minister said that send people to the French side, tell them no, go to the French side.
Right. So what border control we have? Besides that, border control is part of the immigration system.
Yeah.
What policy is there with regards to entry of people that is different or whatever? Unless there's a different type of human being standing with a gun now at the border. But what is the policy? Your good question would be then, who's setting that policy?
That's exactly where I'm going. If you cede it to the Dutch, who sets it then?
Yeah, but if they, my problem was with the marshal says, you have a contingency marshal says, here to train my people in document inspection. What are you doing at the immigration office?
At the Bali.
You know, if I want to allow the fellow from St. Kitts who happens to be my first cousin, you don't know. So what are you doing there? And what benefit it is to me that you go stay and stop people from coming in? Or let people in that you feel that they should come in. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying, but why do we do this? Just to appease, again, our weakness. We appease him because, like I know a certain minister said, what difference it makes? Can't hurt. Yeah, of course it can't hurt because you don't know where it should not hurt.
I need to go. Two more things I need to get clear from you before you go. Let's talk about the monetary union.
Oh, boy.
When back in 2010, really, we were still talking about whether it should dollarize or not. We were forced into this union while the Dutch has allowed Sabre Stage, the best islands then, to dollarize. We're having some shaking in the union now, and I heard the Minister of Finance say that the central bank would advise him on any threats to the economy in St. Maarten by the effects of what's happening in Curacao that might cause a devaluation of the guilder. Secondly, there's a talk of going over to the Caribbean guilder, but no time set, but it's being studied. Studied by whom?
Let me start. I'm one person that was pro and still am pro theoretically for call it joint guilder, Caribbean guilder, whatever. Holland dollarized the best, and it was very cute because if they're part of Holland, they should have been euroized. Why? Because the intention of the euro was to balance off against the dollar. And the euro has been so successful in the last, 20 years, that they have a notch on the dollar. So every time Holland gives any money to the best, they make a profit. Okay? Simple as that. By paying euros in dollars, they make a profit. Holland makes a profit. I can't understand the economics. I'm not an economist, but I don't understand the economics of dollarizing the best against in being part of a European country that has the euro. That's a question for the European and the best people. A monetary union. My problem with the setup is, and the intention at 10-10-10 was that the central bank would actually have two legs, a St. Maarten leg and a Curacao leg. At this point, the St. Maarten leg is practically non-existent. I don't think they have 10 people employed on St. Maarten. And if you ask me who they are, you need to have the quality. What does the central bank do? The central bank monitors economic activity. The intention was that St. Maarten's branch or the St. Maarten section of the central bank would have qualified people here to monitor St. Maarten. Take the U.S. as an example. The Federal Reserve is a combination of reserve banks of several states.
Several different states.
Okay? The U.S. dollar is a monetary union also. Those several components, they appoint a chairman, the president does, and they monitor the monetary. We don't have that. We have the combination of that, but we have the stupid quarrel between Curacao and St. Maarten who got run things. And that's where a lot of the energy is wasted in terms of who run things. Now it turns out that a third party is going to run it anyway. My problem is that St. Maarten needs to build up its, call it branch, or section, that section is capable to monitor and report on and oversee our economy. Then the two sections can get together and guide for the union. That's what happens in Europe also. The Dutch has its own central bank still, but he gets together with the European Central Bank, with all other central banks, and they set monetary policy and stuff. At this stage, when my minister says to me, I'm going to let the central bank do this, I get worried, because there is nothing in the central bank on St. Maarten that is competent, qualified, enough people, enough knowledge to advise the central bank. I happen to know it's about almost 40 people that work for the central bank on Curacao that's supposedly doing St. Maarten work. I don't like that. That's employment that we're lacking here, and that's local insight or oversight that has to be here. The idea is that a monetary union, there are two members, those two members need to be working and not just one lopsided way of supervising the matter. That means, that's one. My other gripe against the central bank is it doesn't do sufficient oversight jobs. It doesn't oversee the banks properly. There's an issue going on now with banks. If you had a criminal run-in or something, they cut your account off.
Yep.
You're actually disaffecting the economy because you're forcing people now that they can't contribute anything. They're saying, yeah, but that's from my corresponding bank in the States. Here, I got a crook on my account. Wait a minute. Where's my central bank? The central bank should oversee that, should intervene if that happens. Because you've got to protect the economy too. Because what you're having now, you have people who are legal permit to operate a business and can't. And what is the Minister of Justice saying? Boy, we complying with all kinds of rules. On Facebook, I found this thing where Italy, big Italy, third largest country now in Europe, has only complied with 2 out of 26. And we hear poor St. Martin killing himself not to comply. Not that because Italy we don't have to, but I'm saying it isn't as bad as we want to put it. If Italy could only comply with 2 out of 26 and get a good report, the boy, they're trying, what will St. Martin? But we don't. We have our priorities mixed up. Coming back to the central bank needs to take on, we need to give the central bank better, more work to do, to really monitor the economy. And I don't like it being monitored from Curacao because I don't even know the people on Curacao come to St. Martin. They got enough figures in St. Martin. I know our statistics bureau right now ain't the most reliable institution because of their lack of doing what they got to do. So where is the central bank going to get all the statistics? They don't create it themselves. So from Curacao, they're going to come and take St. Martin statistics? Hey, we're making jokes again.
In your time, you served in the Netherlands Antilles Parliament, you were a minister, so let's go to a comparative check with the Netherlands Antilles when we were island territory on the autonomy and competences we have as a government. We should have had all these things with a separate status, but in my humble opinion, we have less now than we had then. Let me get your take.
Let me put it this way. A lot of us complain and criticize the 10-10-10 because it ain't bring nothing better. Some people even get nostalgic and want to go back to the old days. To me, and I was deep in it, the intention of 10-10-10 was to bring us to a next phase of self-reliance and self-government. If you compare us with the other islands, St. Kitts, I used to go to St. Kitts with Clem back in the 70s when they had obtained their associated statehood, their pride and all of that. Their idea was to move forward. After 5-6 years, depending on the island, the size, etc., they moved on to full independence. We never did that. In the statute days, 1950s, you remember the 54 we get us. In the 50s, you also had Bustamante, Eric Williams, the guys them in Jamaica, all went to England at the same time, you know. One came back with associated statehood. We came back with statute. Something in our development stalled or didn't go straight. They went on to independence and we got stuck in the statute. 10-10-10, we got stuck again. The idea was, hey, we needed to get the right. We had a right, we stood on our right to be where we are. But we also admitted that we weren't all ready yet. Curacao had a, $5 billion debt that was choking them. St. Martin, I always going to repeat this, St. Martin didn't have to take on no CFT, you know. We had a relatively small debt that we wasn't supposed to, as a matter of fact, St. Martin was ignored in funds that you were not supposed to borrow to start with, so what do you mean you got debt? St. Martin, in November 2006, insisted on getting their debt covered too. The condition for getting the debt covered was a CFT. So we didn't have to. We didn't even try to plan to say how we going to do it. Remember we had a boardwalk protest and stuff, and the boardwalk was even attached because of the old SUV and all that. Eventually that was helped, but a great number of the money wasn't ever paid by Holland. Again, why?
I just wonder we didn't get a relief we were going to
Right,
get.
because well, we couldn't prove that we had that much of a debt neither. That's how good our bookkeeping is. You know? Well, another chapter in our weakness, okay? So, 10-10-10 was supposed to be that start in which you're going to learn to be. You're 18, you left home, and now you're on your own. Especially for St. Martin, because we were the weakest of the whole gang. We were the weakest because we didn't have the money. Our government don't own no property. Our government had been faking budget results
Balanced
for the
budget,
last,
yes.
how long?
Close to 3 decades.
Okay? When I went into the Antilles, I realized it, and I says, what? And I asked, well, you hush them up, behave yourself. It was convenient to the central government because if St. Martin declared a deficit, the central government have to step in and cover it, and the central government didn't want to do that. So if you want to say you're all right, you're okay. So St. Martin has continued this budget nonsense that it has after 10-10-10. We never learned because we got away with it. We never had the discipline. That's why I like to use the word discipline. That's one. So we're now what? 8 years further. If you compare St. Kitts 8 years after their associated, they were pretty ready to go. We didn't do nothing in terms of that. We started to spend. We gave ourselves big salaries. You know, we like to compare our salaries with Curacao and Aruba, which they're much bigger than. You want to do some nice comparison? Compare it to St. Kitts to Antigua. What ministers earn there as opposed to us. Then how come they can run their own show and we can't? Okay? We should do that. Now, my problem with 10-10-10, 10-10-10 wasn't no promise that boy, manna, all things. Even the Jews, when the manna fall from heaven, we still complain. It was the opportunity for us to start learning to run our own thing, to be self-reliant, and to do that. We even tried. That's my sad part of 10-10-10. Now to complain. What are we complaining about? That the Dutch manipulating us? Of course they do. Because if we don't do for ourselves, they're going to manipulate us forever. And they ain't got this ain't bad yet, you know. At the end of the day, my theory is that they will control St. Martin. Not like a best. I don't think they want St. Martin to be a best because internationally that might not play a role. And if you drive my economy into the ground, then you're going to have to really spend some serious money to get it back up in shape. No, they're going to have agreements with the governors, the politicians, etc., that they're going to follow instructions. If next year we go back for more budgetary support, there will be additional conditions. By the way, you notice that they never have conditions about labor or public health or education.
Schools and so. No, I keep mentioning that. Why they don't want to take those over?
No, that's hard work.
Yeah.
You know?
Roland, I don't know. I don't know where we're going. You know, that's my greatest problem is trying to figure out where we're going because there's no. Once we used to argue that the Dutch have no fixed philosophy on what they want to do. These are because one day they was going to send you your independence, and the next day they was going to sell you. Well, we're there now in our own existence,
Sure.
and we don't know where we want to go.
But one of the biggest lies that we let them put on us is that they don't really need us. They're doing us a favor and all that. What I'm saying, I beg to disagree. You get to play in the OAS, you get to play Coast Guard in the Caribbean, you get to play in the Caribbean Association of States, you get to play in all kinds of international organizations because you are in the Caribbean. And right now, like Sister Martin, you could leave because I got the best and I still got a foot in the Caribbean. Well, too bad for us. But on the other hand, I don't think they could talk to France and tell France, listen, I'm pulling out of St. Martin because France isn't going to accept that. Okay? Because if you look at who is patrolling the waters right now, it isn't England, it isn't France. Do you ever see the Puerto Rican Coast Guard anymore? Okay? What I'm saying is, But again, the typical thing of oppression, bullying, is that you feel insignificant compared to me. I don't need you. I'm doing you a favor. Then you were like, yeah, we're trainer, huh? Like, boy, they have a right to put the condition because the Dutch taxpayers ain't gonna accept this. Man, how come the Dutch taxpayers accepting all kinds of military waste? How come the Dutch taxpayers accepting all the nonsense you're doing all over the world? Huh? And the Dutch taxpayer is going to wake up because you're planning to spend 5 million euros in Somalia. Your budget a couple billion euros. Come on! But we feed it, we swallow it. That's why we should, I don't know, we should stop going to school up there.
I hope to, I didn't,
Because
want
you
to have
cannot indoctrinate
a
it.
discussion on reparation one day, but we come to the end of the program. I want to thank you for coming by, informative as always, sometimes controversial, but that's Roland.
But listen, I say it like I see it.
Like you see it, okay.
I apologize if anybody feels I've offended them. I'm not apologizing for my opinion.
True, I
But
agree with you.
If anybody misinterpret what I think, or it is offensive, fine. If I can't tell you what I think about you, good or bad, then maybe we shouldn't be friends anyway.
Okay, radio listeners, TV viewers, we have had the Attorney Roland Duncan today as our guest. We hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you have gleaned something from it. We've come to the end of the morning show with Elton Jones. Do have a pleasant day further. Goodbye.